Hey everyone, this is Thyworm and today I'm breaking the news that Last Epoch has been delayed, which I think is a good thing. Enjoying Last Epoch videos? Consider subscribing. Let's read the words of the developer first. Mox, the game director, talks about the start of the journey which began with a Kickstarter. He then continues saying, "We've worked diligently from the launch of our Kickstarter to consistently release high quality content-rich patches, wholly embracing community feedback along the way. With your support we have replaced the passive grid with a more intuitive and rewarding system, replaced an underwhelming mastery class with one that was thematically more distinct from its base class, overhauled the UI to something darker and grittier, modernized our graphics, and recently reworked mastery classes to make choosing one more impactful. Player feedback has been and will continue to be the heart of Last Epoch's development, and we strongly believe these changes have been worth the time investment." With that said, we have decided to move the launch window of Last Epoch to Q4 2020. We know this might be disappointing, however, this will not change the steady pace at which we continue to release large content patches and improvements throughout the beta. We will use this extra time to ensure that we arrive at 1.0 at the highest possible quality, while having adequate time to continue acting on your feedback. This will be even more important as we move towards significant milestones in the next year, such as the continued development of the rogue class, endgame systems, itemization updates, the rollout of multiplayer, and performance improvements. I don't think it's disappointing, honestly. It would be more disappointing to release the game in April, as was the original idea, and then release a 70% finished and optimized game. I feel this is a great decision actually, one that takes some courage to make and also one that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, the backers still get access to the game in April, there just won't be a release. The article doesn't really go into details too much, but I want to touch on three factors that I think influenced this decision: the community, the roadmap, and the state of the game. First, Mox isn't kidding about the community thing. Last Epoch has a small but active community where members contribute to game designs and mechanics using the forum. There's a real and honest conversation going on between the developers and the community, and whenever some ideas receive a bit of backlash, they're simply not implemented but changed. A recent example was the potion overhaul, which was presented to the community, basically rejected by the community, and was changed and implemented later in a different form. The community also had a factor in designing game elements, such as skill trees. The summon scorpion tree from the Beastmaster has been designed using feedback and ideas from the community, and that's great. However, it also takes time. You're doing certain things twice. There is the initial design phase by the developers, then there is some community feedback, and then you need to redesign the original idea, which takes up time once more. I think that upfront the devs didn't necessarily take that into account and have realized that if they want to take community feedback seriously, which they have done so far, they will require more time to implement new features. Second, when looking at the roadmap, there was a lot of stuff present there and not a lot of months to implement that. Regardless of community feedback, implementing 4 more endgame systems, an entire new class, around 20-ish skill trees, a bunch of acts, and a ton of other content as well in 4 months with a relatively small indie team seems like a very tall order. The new release date, Q4 2020, gives them at least 6 additional months to work on these features. It actually solidifies my confidence in the developers because I think this is a much more realistic approach. I am no developer myself, but I have been covering games for a while now. I have seen how roadmaps and reality aren't always compatible, and I think I'm able by now to properly evaluate if a roadmap makes sense given the amount of time. I was actually already working on a script for a video tackling this very subject, the short timelines for the April release, but now there is no need for a video like that anymore, which is a good thing. Third, the current state of the game, and I don't mean content. I think Last Epoch could really already be released in its current state when looking at content. I'm not saying they should, but they could just charge $20 and tell everyone they'd have a good time for 100 hours and then call it a day. There's quite some content available already, a lot of class diversity, plenty of build options, a decent crafting system, an interesting campaign, and some great time travel concepts. But the third point isn't about content, it is about performance and how the game feels to play. Let me start with performance. it's just not great. From time to time, it's even terrible. I'm dealing with frequent stutters, frame drops, lag, and just a very subpar performance, depending on the area I'm in, the class I'm playing, the amount of skills I use. And I have a really good PC. I tried tuning down settings, I played around with a bunch of graphical options, but even on low settings, this game just doesn't run well. Actually, it doesn't matter much if I pick ultra or low. And it is not just in-game performance that is problematic here. It is also the amount of resources the game currently consumes. My GPU and CPU are regularly at 80% usage. The last Epoch turns my gaming PC into a helicopter basically. There are some real issues to fix here. These issues have existed for a while as well because I have been playing since April. For me, performance since then hasn't significantly improved. And I'm not the only one. Just watch some YouTube videos of other creators and you will notice stutter and lag there too, usually on some pretty beefy machines. This is a widespread issue. Fixing this might require some serious rework of engine components, because it's clear by now that this isn't a superficial bug, because if that was the case it would have been fixed by now. So it's good they're going to take their time to work on performance and hopefully tackle this issue. Finally, as part of the third point, the feel of the game. Now this is very subjective, I do realize that, but when I play the last Epoch, what I find lacking a little bit is the combat, the feel of combat. I'm using Whirlwind here, Warpath, and I'm just cutting through enemies without really any visceral feel to it. There's no oomph, there's no sensation of impact. I don't really feel powerful even though I am mowing down enemies within 2 seconds. My weapons don't actually seem to hit anything and I'm simply looking at numbers. Compare this to Path of Exile, where you really feel that your blows, arrows and magic are hurting someone. Or Grim Dawn, where the screen shake, ragdoll physics and short moments of impact give you a sense of battle. I am missing that a little bit here in Last Epoch. This isn't really a roadmap item per se, but I hope, first of all, that you sort of see what I'm trying to say, and second of all, that 11th Hour Games is able to give the weapons, magic and summons a bit more weight, to improve the combat sounds by making them more believable, to give me the impression I'm actually hitting something. All in all though, I want to conclude saying that I think Last Epoch in its current state is still enjoyable, which is a big plus. I'm covering the game quite a lot in my videos and I wouldn't be doing that if I'm not having fun playing it. I'm having a blast still, and actually, even though the game certainly has its downsides, I feel that the advantages outweigh them. If you would ask me if you should buy the game right now, I would say yeah, in its current state. Especially if you can cope with the negatives, the game has already a lot of features and content to enjoy and explore. With development time, especially since they have decided to postpone the release, I hope there will be a good amount of effort put into the negatives I just mentioned to make Last Epoch a great game. I would rather have one less act and one less endgame system with stable performance than more content with frequent frame rate drops. I'm curious what your stance is on this though. That's it for today, thanks so much for watching. I will see you Sunday for the weekly roundup. Bye bye.